Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
We are an inclusive faith community
seeking to live out the loving, just, and generous way of Jesus.
We are participants in a long tradition
that's less concerned with doctrines and dogma that demand total agreement,
but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others.
What unites us is a growing awareness that life is precious.
That we are made by love in order to love.
This community is comprised of and affirms the entire human family.
Regardless of race, age, creed,
physical abilities, marital or economic status,
gender identity, or sexual orientation.
So, if you're curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
if you're joyful and have come to celebrate,
if you are uprooted and have come to belong,
welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
How great this love, oh, it's moving all my mountains. This perfect love is casting out my fear. How great this love, oh, it welcomes me like family, and everywhere I go, it meets me there. He is good, and He is God. What I earn is not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve is not what I find. What more could I say about Him? My God is love. How great this love, oh, it's faithful through my failures. This trusted love is with me to the end. How great this love, oh, it's closer than a brother. This is love. He died so I could live. He is good, and He is God. What I earn is not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve is not what I find. What more could I say about Him? My God is love. He is good, and He is God. what I earned, is not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve is not what I find. What more could I say about him? My God is love. What more could I say about him? My God is love. What more could I say about him? My God is love. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I will worship your holy name. I will worship your holy name.
There are many ways we collaborate with each other to be the church we're called to be and to serve how we serve. And our contributing financially is one of the most important of those ways. If you want to help fund and sustain what we get to do together, go to crosspoint.org/contribute to see the many simple ways that you can do so. You can even text CrosspointeNC to 77977 to receive a link to get started now. Thank you for your partnership in the work we do together.
Louis Leakey sent me to Gombe because he believed that an understanding of chimpanzees in the wild would help him to better guess how our Stone Age ancestors may have behaved. It had long been thought that we were the only creatures on Earth that used and made tools. Man the toolmaker is how we were defined. And here was David Greybeard using a tool. It was hard for me to believe what I'd seen. A few days later, I watched, spellbound, as chimps set off to a termite mound, picked a small leafy twig, then stripped it of its leaves. That was object modification, the crude beginning of tool making. It had never been seen before. When I telegrammed the news to Louis Leakey, he responded that we must now redefine man or accept chimpanzees as human. My observations at Gombe would challenge human uniqueness, and whenever that happens, there is always a violent uproar. There were some who would try to discredit my observations because I was a young, untrained girl and should therefore be disregarded. The result of it all, however, was that Louis was able to obtain a grant from the National Geographic Society to continue my study. In addition, they would be sending out a photographer to document the chimpanzees.
Many of you may know that Jane Goodall died this past week at the age of 91, but not before she made a lasting impact on the world. Now, this is not a sermon about Jane Goodall. This message was in the works long before her passing this week. But as I was watching and reading about her life, I was struck by how well her life and work align with what I already was working on for today. As you may have caught in the video, one of the things that Goodall's research did was challenge what we believed and thought we knew so certainly and securely about humans and chimpanzees. And she didn't set out to do that. From a young age, she simply had a love of animals and she wanted to be near them. And being up close to the chimpanzees in Zimbabwe allowed that to happen. At first, she had no formal training. She simply observed and studied in the best way she knew how. And by the time she was informed that her methods were not conventional or correct, her findings had already begun to call into question how humanity thought about itself. And as you might have heard her say in the video, when people's beliefs are challenged, there's often a violent uproar. And I would add that this uproar can be both external and internal. All of us have likely had times in our lives when our assumptions and our beliefs have been challenged. There's actually been some studies that suggest that humans are only willing to call about 5% of our beliefs into question at any one time. And even if it's double that, that can be really uncomfortable, and it's just a small part. Now, a good part of my childhood happened to be in the age of the VHS tape. And for those of you who don't remember, VHSs were these rectangular, bulky black boxes that held film in the form of magnetic tape. And it was a way to watch film, movies at home. You could even make it yourself. So you put the black box into a bigger box that was connected to the TV. And so when you played it, the film would show up on the television screen. It was like magic. Entire industries were built upon this. Video rental stores, like a library for VHS, held hundreds, if not more, of VHS tapes that you could borrow and use at home. And as you're probably aware, eventually the world moved on from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray, and now I don't even have a DVD or Blu-ray player in my house. We just stream everything. But back then, the VHS was key to home entertainment. And the only way to watch or rewatch or replay a scene was to rewind it or fast forward the tape. And when I was a young kid, I won't embarrass myself by telling you how young, I believed that there were tiny actors in each VHS tape that had to act out whatever was on the VHS every single time we watched it. So I thought every time we rewound it or fast forwarded the tape, those actors had to remember where they were in the scene. They had to start from that point. And I imagine this was very difficult for them. And I imagine they got very tired. But this didn't stop me from fast forwarding and rewinding anyway, because I just knew I would catch them in a mess up. So quick life update, I no longer believe this is true. But it made sense to me at the time. I had filled in my missing technology knowledge with what I knew and understood about the world. So how about you? Are there things that you once believed to be true that turned out not to be? Silly or not? Things that you thought you completely understood but were completely off base? Or things that were true for you once that changed over time and are no longer true for you now? All of us carry with us a hypothetical or imaginary suitcase. And inside of it are our thoughts and beliefs, things that we hold to be true. Wherever they came from, however we got them, from our parents, our heritage, our church, our raisin, as my Texan mother would say. These are beliefs about all sorts of things. Faith, God, our relationship to faith in God. These are beliefs about people, our current understandings, our stereotypes, our biases. They've come from all over, explicitly and implicitly. We heard them around our dinner table. They were interwoven into our family stories from Sunday school, in casual comments made to us or about us or just around us. They found our way into our suitcase anytime anyone ever said, "That's not how we do things in this family," or "What will people think?" Or anytime anyone cited an unwritten rule that we were expected to be following, but that actually created insiders and outsiders. So in my suitcase, I've carried things I was taught on purpose. Come inside at dark. Don't swim right after eating. Always go to church on Sundays, even on vacation. No smoking, no drinking, no messing around before marriage. I was born bad. Certain lifestyles are better than others. Not to mention all the very specific doctrine I was taught about God and Jesus and the church and the Bible and humanity. And in my suitcase, I've also carried many things that I was taught inadvertently in my social, family, religious environment, not on purpose. But sometimes those things stick longer and harder. Things for me like love has requirements, or we're unworthy, untrustworthy, we're unlovable, unacceptable. Maybe certain people are better than others, should be feared, avoided, or hated. Or the circle doesn't include everybody. You can always try harder, but it will never be enough. Our way is the best way. I'm sure you can make lists of your own. My suitcase holds a lot of doctrine and theology that hadn't been well vetted before it was given to me, or when it was given to my parents or their parents, and on and on and on, so that the beliefs just became standardized and accepted without question. Now, suitcases come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes they feel like they weigh a ton. Sometimes we can forget they're even there. But examining the contents of our suitcase is a part of a spiritual and mental growth and maturity. And at some point, or more likely points, all of us will or should have an examination of the contents of our belief suitcases. And much of the time, we might not even realize what's in our suitcases until something pushes or forces us to examine the contents. Maybe we meet someone and they aren't what we imagined them to be. We find ourselves in a situation that changes our thinking, perspective. We experience a loss. But what we believed about God and faith and the world gave us comfort and held us together until it just didn't anymore. And suddenly truths that we thought were so unshakable are no longer as sturdy, or they don't matter quite as much or in the same way as they once did. Maybe something shifts in our lives that makes our understandings and perspective shifts, offers us a new prescription. And that can shake us to our core. Because when we find this happening, we find ourselves taking a look at the contents of our suitcase and asking things like, how did this get in here? And why? Does this belief still need to be in my suitcase? Do I need to replace it with something else, reframe it with a more nuanced, complex, deeper understanding? Or does it just need to be thrown out altogether? And rarely do we examine all the contents of our suitcase at once. Sometimes we might find ourselves examining something in our suitcase and determine that it still serves us. So we put it right back in, just as it was, or maybe with a little tweak here and there. The difference is that thing is now our belief, not one that was just handed to us or picked up inadvertently along the way. We now own it, and it makes sense to us that it's in our suitcase. So my husband spent 5 days on the Appalachian Trail this past June. Our very own Crosspointe student, Pastor Jennifer, will be taking about a 200-mile hike during her sabbatical. And both of these adventurers would tell you that one of the things that consumes their thoughts as they prepare is that they have to carry everything they need on their back in their pack. Food, water, clothing, toilet paper, soap, Band-Aids, silverware, bedding, all of it. Through hikers on the Appalachian Trail measure the weight of items in their pack in ounces. And a lot of times they try to get the weight of their pack to under 20 pounds. And that sounds like a lot, but that's not. There is no room for extra fluff because they're going to feel every ounce in their back and their shoulders and their knees and the rest of their bodies. That is not the time for a Mary Poppins bag or a mom bag, the bottomless, full of things you need, things you might need, things you never will actually need, but it's there just in case. If you've ever walked along parts of the Appalachian Trail, sometimes you can find cast-off items that long hikers have determined they don't actually need. I guess when you take a journey like that, it quickly becomes evident what things are truly essential. There are, of course, times for a mom bag. I have one, but that's probably more suited to a carry-on or a personal item in the suitcase. There are plenty of things that I need no more than 3 ounces of, please. So we do have precedent for this suitcase examination. In the New Testament book of Luke, chapter 14, Jesus had just finished an intimate dinner party with friends and found himself being followed by this huge crowd as he traveled to his next destination. And here's what the text says, Luke 14:25. Now, large crowds were traveling with him, and he turned and said to them, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost to see whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This fellow began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king, going out to wage war against another king, will not sit down first and consider whether he's able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If he cannot, then while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace. So therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all your possessions." So the context of this text really matters, because remember, Jesus isn't talking to friends. He's addressing a large group, probably mostly of strangers who just seem to be following him. And we don't really have many other details. Where'd the people come from? What kind of crowd was it? Was it a funeral procession? Had it turned into some kind of parade? I mean, everybody loves a parade. It could be the group started small, people noticed it, and began joining in without actually even realizing what they were participating in or really even who they were following. Maybe people were singing and dancing and there was food. Likely there were children and animals involved. All we know is this wasn't the dinner party crowd, but mostly people who didn't actually know Jesus, just knew of him. Probably little more than the fact that he could do miracles and tell good stories and feed a lot of people at once. Most likely they had no idea that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem and would soon be killed, or that people connected to him would soon be in danger themselves. I'm sure Jesus enjoyed a parade like everyone else, but maybe it felt to Jesus like the crowd was there under false pretenses, and that he needed to tell them the truth, the brutal truth, to make it clear that at least part of the cost of following was self-examination. Once they knew that, then they could decide for themselves if they wanted to keep hiking. Now, if I'm honest, I've always thought that Jesus sounds like a real jerk here. Hating father and mother and wife and children and siblings, it's a tall order. Who wants to do that? I don't do that. Plus, it sounds nothing like Jesus' ethos of love for neighbor and self and God and others. It's because it isn't. The English word translated hate here, we understand usually to be the opposite of love and care, something more like a loathing or a despising of. But in actuality, the meaning of this word here is more closely something like to detach oneself from. So likely as when Jesus said, anyone who does not give up all your possessions can't become my disciple, the phrase give up is better understood as to separate or detach oneself from. Eugene Peterson, in his interpretation of the Bible called The Message, rewords it like this, and I really like it. Anyone who refuses to let go of their father, mother, spouse, children can't be my disciple. This isn't emotional hate. This is detachment. It's release from what no longer serves you in order to move forward. It's maturity. It doesn't mean you are no longer fond of those things, that you want nothing to do with them or despise them. You're simply not tied to them like you once were. You're further along in your hike. In other words, at some point, we have to examine the contents of our suitcase and determine if what's inside is ours or if it's there because, well, it just is. It's like a Marie Kondoing of self. The cost of the journey of the hike is examining the foundation, the troops, the suitcase. Does it still hold up? Is it strong enough? Does it still make sense to keep carrying it all through our next phase? Or have we grown or learned something that has moved us forward? It's a lot for that crowd to think about. It was a lot for us to think about. But it's actually not the only place in our Bible that we hear about this kind of detachment and examination. Earlier, like the first book earlier, in the book of Genesis chapter 12, we're told that Abram, who's later known as Abraham, his entire family lived in a particular part of the desert and had for generations. And the people of the story were mostly tribal and nomadic at that time, meaning that they stuck close for most of their lives. So much so that there were some issues with things like incest. Abram's wife was actually his half-sister. That's for another sermon. Basically, the group didn't move far from the nest. But then, seemingly out of the blue, Abram heard from a God named Yahweh. And this is what it says. It's Genesis chapter 12. Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you. And then later it says, so Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. So up until this point, it seems like Abram was content where he was. He had no reason not to be. But then he was told it was time to move on. And it was time to keep moving until he was told to stop. And what I love most about this passage is that Abram is 75 when he leaves home, which tells me it's never too late to examine our suitcases, and that it's something we likely will do over and over and over again throughout our lives. And it's something that we are told we're supposed to do. From Abram to Jesus, and even later Paul, who makes a distinction between spiritual milk in spiritual meat and there being a time and growth for both. But why is examining the contents of our suitcase so hard and sometimes so painful? So many of us watching or listening have been told that examining the contents of our hypothetical suitcase is something to be ashamed or afraid of, something we should feel guilty about. Because sometimes it can feel like questioning the legitimacy and the accuracy of the suitcase contents is really questioning the legitimacy of the people or the system that gave it to us. And sometimes it is. But maybe we're told we're questioning or doubting the sacred rather than our understanding of it. God may be the same yesterday, today, and forever, but our understanding of them is not, nor should it be. Examination, doubt of the sacred, of God, isn't personally insulting to them. There is not a thunderbolt waiting somewhere in the wings. We're supposed to do that. And more likely, the people who gave us our foundational beliefs might feel our suitcase examination says something about them and how we feel about them, rather than understanding it's really about us. Examining our suitcase, accepting that doubt is healthy, doesn't make us weak or traitorous or influenced by nefarious outside forces. What it makes us is honest, authentic, and good hikers on life's journey. But what should we do with all the things we decide to leave behind? The beliefs that once we held may not be exactly the same beliefs that I hold now, but it doesn't mean those former beliefs didn't serve me at one time. Now, there are times to throw things out that are harmful to us, let them decay and return to dust, and never look back. But I'd say more often, we need to hold gently those things that no longer serve us, acknowledge that they were useful for a time, offer gratitude for them, and place them on the shelf of things past, like the trophies and the medals we got for the events that we aren't ever interested in participating in again. If we're able to practice gratitude instead of disgust, it becomes more about the ideas and the beliefs we're leaving behind or evolving from, and not about the people who gave them to us. It can also give us more room for compassion for examining their own people that are examining their own suitcases. There are many doctrines I have taken out of my suitcase that no longer make sense. But there are also things that I've chosen to put back into my suitcase. The belief my parents instilled in me that we should take care of those who can't care for themselves. I still believe that Jesus was a person that is worth following today. How I do that just might look a little different. Some of the things I once held so tightly no longer seem as important as they once did as I got a little older. And as I empty my suitcase, I find I have a lot more room for people. I find I have a lot more room for love and compassion. I also find I have a lot less room for things that hurt others, including myself. And I don't know about you, but there are a lot of things in my suitcase that I've brought with me that I really should have left behind. And there are things I left behind that I really should have left in the suitcase. Sometimes we keep what's inside, sometimes we let it go. And there isn't shame in either one. It's an ongoing journey. I hope the next time that you start or need to examine your suitcase, you remember it's not shame or fear. It's what we're supposed to do. So here's to examining our suitcases. Thanks.
If you would like to know more or get connected to Crosspointe, go to crosspoint.org. If you're in need of care or assistance, go to crosspoint.org/care. And welcome home.